Gary Brewer.
And I'm Lauren Brooks. Alabama's troubled prepaid college tuition program and the future of education for thousands of students across the state.
That's right. The issue is about to go before the state Supreme Court, and it has many people worried about how to pay for their college.
More now in tonight's top story. As we've reported this week, a Montgomery Circuit judge ruled the law passed by lawmakers permitting reduced tuition payments is constitutional. The state Supreme Court had asked the circuit judge to review the law before the high court considers it. If the Supreme Court agrees with this ruling, then the PACT plan will be able to pay reduced rate rather than full tuition. That has some PACT students at the University of Alabama worried about how they can afford to attend college.
My parents, when they were young, set aside money to pay for the PACT program, and for expected tuition and additional fees to be paid for, and they don't have any additional money right now to pay for mine and my sister's schooling, so we'll be forced to go to a less expensive school.
The state treasurer said the program is paying full tuition for the fall semester since the case is pending. The PACT board hopes for a ruling before the spring semester. Coming up tonight for you on WVUA News at 6, solutions on how students can fill that funding gap.
Republican Alabama Chief Justice candidate Roy Moore is in Tuscaloosa today. The former Alabama Chief Justice spoke to the Tuscaloosa Republican Women Group. A big topic today was the upcoming presidential election and why Moore feels Mitt Romney is the best candidate. Moore also spoke about his race for Chief Justice and how he plans to improve the state's court system.
We've got a major problem in the court system with our revenue. Of course, I know the state has had a problem there too, and the legislature is doing a fairly good job at addressing it, but we've got to continue to remind them that we're a branch, not an agency, and that we're entitled to good revenue.
Moore faces Democratic candidate Jefferson County Circuit Judge Robert Vance Jr. in the November 6th general election.
Tuscaloosa's VA Medical Center has earned a national honor for its care. The VA's inpatient psychiatry program was recognized by the Joint Commission as a top performer on key quality measures for 2011. The honor is based on measures for heart attack, heart failure, pneumonia, and other types of care. VA spokesman Damon Stevenson says they're among 620 hospitals in the U.S. to earn this distinction.
It's an honor to receive this recognition from the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Hospitals because it reinforces to us that we're providing exceptional care to our nation's veterans.
Officials say the list of top performers increased more than 50% from its debut just last year. Thousands of Alabama fans are making plans to head here to T-Town this weekend.
That's right. The Alabama Crimson Tide is getting ready to take on Florida Atlantic. We have a live look for you over Bryant-Denny Stadium from our WVUA tower camera. That's where the Tide will hit the gridiron against the Owls. Kickoff is set for 4 p.m. The game is pay-per-view. It will be carried on the radio on Crimson Tide Sports Network. And WVUA is the place to start your football Saturdays. Don't miss Crimson Tide kickoff Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Gary Harris will have complete coverage of the big game day with special guests, a breakdown of the matchup, and feature stories on the Tide. That's Saturday morning only on WVUA TV. And before you cheer on your team on Saturday, get your football fix tomorrow night. Football Friday is right after WVUA News at 10. Gary Harris and the WVUA sports team will bring you all the highlights from West Alabama's biggest games. That's starting at 10:35. Well, there's good news for America's fishing industry. In 2011, fishing crews hauled in the largest catch since 1994, more than 10 billion pounds.
And that's worth more than $5 billion. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, tighter federal laws for fisheries management have been key to improving volumes, but the U.S. still imported about 91% of the seafood Americans ate. On Capitol Hill today, a hearing on the failed Fast and Furious program was deliberate and dissecting. 3 hours of questions to the Justice Department's Inspector General about where the program went wrong. The report found a policy that allowed hundreds of guns from the U.S. to get into the hands of Mexican drug cartels. Some were traced to the shooting of a U.S. Border Patrol agent back in 2010. 14 ATF and Justice Department employees now face disciplinary actions for their roles. The report says Attorney General Eric Holder was not told, when he should have been, about the operation in which ATF agents watched suspected gun traffickers cross into Mexico with weapons purchased in U.S. gun shops.
This failure, we found, reflected a significant lack of oversight and urgency by both ATF and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and a disregard by both for the safety of individuals in the United States and in Mexico.
Following the release of the report, the former acting director of the ATF announced he is retiring. The former Deputy Assistant Attorney General resigned.
On your election watch, President Obama and Mitt Romney are getting ready for their first debate, and the economy will take center stage when they face off. According to the debate moderator, Jim Lair of PBS, the first three segments will focus on the economy. Healthcare, the role of government, and governing are also up for debate. The first debate is set for Wednesday, October 3rd at the University of Denver in Colorado. Well, a Texas mother is outraged over her son's paddling at school.
She admits she gave the school permission to do it if he misbehaved, but she says what happened to her son was an assault. Here's the story.
I signed for the corporal punishment. I did not sign for my child to be assaulted. He was covered in whelps and bruises from one end to the next.
Christina Dowdy claims it all happened here at her 13-year-old son's middle school. She says he received 3 consecutive zeros, and because it violated Barbers Hill ISD policy, the teen was supposed to get 2 swats or paddles, a type of punishment she admits she okayed at the beginning of the school year. But she says this time things went too far.
When you paddle a child, you pop their behind. You don't abuse them. This was abuse. This was so bad that they left bruises.
Dowdy says the marks were so bad she took him to the doctor.
And he said, this is horrific.
And now she wants those responsible charged and fired. Barbers Hill ISD released a statement to Eyewitness News saying in part, Barbers Hill Police Department and administration have completed the investigation of allegations made last week by a parent of a middle school student and have determined that all procedures were followed. There will be no further administrative action taken. This controversy now has the small town of Mont Bellevue buzzing.
I believe they ought to be battled if they do wrong. I got my butt beat as a child.
She should have realized what corporal punishment was. It's not something nice.
But this mother claims what happened here went overboard, and now
I have contacted a congressman or congresswoman about this. I'm also contacting the legislative here in Texas over this. I want it heard. I want this to stop. I don't want to see this happen to another child.
The school's policy is for 2 swats to be given by an administrator of the same gender with a witness present. Dowdy has filed criminal charges against the 2 administrators who she says are responsible for the paddling.